the film was done so well. It's just insane to me that like a piece of art could change that much because I'm not describing it great right now.
Well, what that's the thing is, how was the film done so well? What about it made the film done so well? I mean, it could be, to me, part of what it was the raw nature of, like, some people, it got flack first off for being like a snuff film. Some people call it a snuff film, that you're watching this guy just get tortured from the start to the end.
You're an idiot if you think that like that's all that was going on.
Yeah.
And I hate to be that mean.
Yeah.
It's just
for me, obviously the acting was great. There was a clear story they're telling. Every one of the actors felt legitimately like they were going through that.
It's about a mother's love for her son.
Yeah.
It's about a guy carrying this massive weight and finishing it to completion. It's about the saving of the world, but it's also about this human experience of a dude that's facing the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's not about just ripping flesh off and blood and all the violent stuff. Like, what makes it great to me is there's this scene. I don't know if you remember this. When's the last time you watched it?
Dude, I watched it one time.
Most people watched it once.
Theater.
Yes.
And I own it. I bought it. I have never watched it again.
Dude, there's this
Because
scene.
it's so heavy, man.
There's this scene where they're following Jesus as he's carrying the cross, and like she looks at him and they're trying to get to him, and she finally sees him, and then it flashes back to this moment where he's a boy and he falls down, and she runs to him to go pick him up. It's the editing, and there's hardly any speaking in like this 3-minute segment. There's hardly any speaking at all. And she runs to him. In the flashback, she says, "I'm here," to the child. Then she runs to him, and it flashes again forward to where he's carrying the cross. And she says, "I'm here." And he looks at her, and the music revs up, and he says, "See, mother, I make all things new." There's like a bad film has speaking.
Yeah.
It's a great filmmaker.
In that moment alone, there's taking advantage of the medium, taking advantage of film, all the tools in film. You can just make it a monologue. You literally can we can just make a pod. You can make anything in film a monologue. You literally can just talk the whole time, shot, reverse shot.
Yeah.
And you can make it as involved as you want. You can have a clip and a cut every 5 seconds if you want. You can make it methodic and sterile. Dude, you can do whatever you want. Film is such an open form.
Yeah.
And there's even unexplored territory in film. I think about what happened in the Marvel universe and all that stuff with digital and all that, like film, Jurassic Park, and all the, from that point on, they changed film. So film's still evolving. It's, to me, to not take advantage of it, to not create those moments where you're just focusing on imagery and the sound comes in. You have so many dynamics in every scene. You've got acting, writing, you've got visual, sound. You can immerse somebody in a moment in many different ways, and to not utilize that throughout a film is wrong.
And I'll say this at the risk of sounding slightly judgmental. I really believe, like, if we're talking about ideological filmmaking, they have not gotten this figured out in the Christian area yet.
Yeah.
If it comes from a church, if it comes from I want to get people saved minded person director, they don't yet have this, because it's like Mel Gibson, he like has the moment in the editing room, and where your average, like, let's say Christian film director would be like, "Gosh, that was amazing." Mel Gibson would be like, "No, that sucks. Do it again."
I feel like that's the difference in, you want to tell a story. Like, if you want to tell a story, there's a story here I'm passionate about, I want to tell it, versus I want to get people saved, or I want to see more people in the altar at my church, so I'm going to film a thing. It's like, no, I have a story I want to tell using film. You're going to look at it and approach it in a different way.
I just watched a film after Passion, because that's all I've been able to think about. So I started watching. I watched this other movie that Jim Caviezel was in, because I'm just focused on that.
Yeah.
And it came out in 2018. It was called Paul, Apostle of Christ. And like, I don't want to smash on anybody's work by any means.
Sure.
But it's basically the story of Paul, but it's a bajillion. It's conversation, people sitting down and talking and standing up and talking for 2 hours.
Okay.
It's not about Paul. It's about Paul. It's about Luke. It's about this church. And it's about this random Roman whose daughter's dying. And it's about all four of them equally. And it is the biggest mess I've ever seen in my life. And it comes from, I don't want to say the film company, but it's definitely a Christian film company.
Sure.
And you could tell throughout the whole thing, they were just like, how do we get scripture across in this? Mel Gibson, now he claims to be a believer, so I'm not judging him in any capacity. So Mel Gibson claims to be a Christian, making a film, even though he went and he got in all this controversy.
That was the crazy thing with Passion.
Well,
they accused him of being anti-Semitic because he was anti-Jew, and it was all this stuff. And then now you flash forward.
Yeah.
Now saying you support Israel is wrong.
Mel Gibson made a fantastic film that was centered around one guy.
Yeah.
Jesus, and there were these other things that added to the weight of that story. And it was not much talking.
It's almost like he read the Gospels and was like, I want to tell that story. I want to tell what they said about Jesus in film. I just want to tell this narrative that was written about this man in film. Yeah. And it wasn't that was a story you wanted to tell. It wasn't, I want to fill my church with people who see this and get saved and all this. He may have had a heart for, I hope this changes people's lives when they watch this. That may have been the case, but what it felt like to me, what genuinely came out of it is that he'd read a story. Say he read the Bible, he read these Gospels, was moved by the story of Jesus, and just wanted to tell that story in film. Yeah. That's what it felt like. It's like you're saying, the story of a man, his situation, wanted to tell that story through film, and in my opinion, it came off beautifully. It came off graphic and extreme.
Yeah.
But
that's what it was.
The source material was graphic and extreme. Keep creating awesome stuff and doing it to excellence. And as always, keep being awesome, because that's how he made you.
Oh, hi, Mark.